Hi, welcome to the Nurse Coach Duo. Today we're diving into gut health. And if you've ever felt bloated, foggy, anxious, or just off and couldn't figure out why, then this conversation's for you. We're so excited to welcome Teresa Goodlett, a fellow nurse and founder of Bloom with Teresa, who specializes in helping women understand what their gut health is trying to tell them and how to feel better from the inside out. Teresa understands how our gut plays an important role in our health and well being. And when something is off in our body, there's often a gut connection. She believes people don't have to continue to chase symptoms when there's a root cause waiting to be discovered and addressed. Teresa has a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of the human body and fully supports people with an emphasis on foundational health habits, guiding them as they make lifestyle changes that move the needle in their health and wellness. This episode is packed with important information about your gut wellness and how to feel your best while still enjoying life, eating, and living a full life. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe for more real talk about midlife wellness with a Nurse Coach Duo. Before we dive in, just a quick reminder. This episode is for educational purposes only and isn't medical advice. If you're dealing with a health issue, please check in with your healthcare provider.
Coach Duo. My name is Angie McGuire. I am the owner of Coach Angie in Oak Park, Illinois.
And I'm Jen Schroer. I'm the owner of Clarity Health and Wellness. And today we have Teresa Goodlett, a fellow RN that we are super excited to have with us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you. I am so honored that you asked me to be on.
Oh, I just think it's such an important conversation. And, we hear so much about the gut and the microbiome, everything. If you're in wellness at all, even if you're not in wellness, I feel like you kind of would live under a rock if you hadn't heard the term at this point because it's everywhere. But I do think there's so much confusion about it. So I think this is going to be an awesome conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So we started out with your bio ahead of time, so the audience already knows a little bit about you. So why don't you tell us just kind of how you ended up here in this lane of GI health?
Yeah, it was kind of a journey. It was a journey to get to this point with the background in ICU, and I loved my time doing that and doing that bedside nursing, and it brought me great joy. Once I started having kids, just things shifted for me, and I wanted to be home more. I really struggled leaving the house and doing those 12-hour shifts, and so I just was like, this isn't no longer is this a fit for me, and I don't feel aligned either because at that point in time, I had kind of already been on a journey in kind of more holistic approach to health and wellness. And so there were many times, many shifts where I would feel very conflicted about the way that I was taking care of the patients or the lack thereof and what I wasn't able to do or what I wasn't able to say, but I knew better or had information to, it was conflicting. It just took me a while to really figure out like, how can I prioritize my motherhood, which is so, so important to me, but also follow my heart, which and I know my calling was to serve people and to take care of people and be in some sort of capacity with health and wellness as my heart desired as far as like one-on-one with people and really helping them dig into their health and get answers. I have my own kind of long history with my own digestive health and the struggles that I experienced all throughout my childhood and early adolescent until we dug in and got the answers, and it was life-changing to reset my gut and get everything sorted out and dealt with. It literally changed the trajectory of my personal health, so much so that I couldn't stop talking about gut health and how it's connected to everything. And so when I found the opportunity to take a course to learn all about this GI mapping and working with clients one-on-one, it was just like, this is kind of and my kids became, school age now. I have a senior this year, and I'm homeschooling. So it just fits so seamlessly in that way. So I've found a lot of fulfillment and opportunity to serve people.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, you came to this place because of a personal, you know, affliction or not
Right.
condition or
Yeah.
whatever you want to call
Yes.
it that you were
Mhm.
dealing with. And, so often that happens, right? That it comes on our lap and we're like, all right, we got to fix ourselves. And then we want to help others get through
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So
And just being able to relate on that level with the
yeah,
client and really truly empathizing with them, knowing exactly what they're feeling. Everybody's
yeah.
different, but yeah, just being able to be like, "Ah, I've been there, I know." And it's a heart thing to like it really it really I feel very heart centered with what I'm doing because of my ability to relate with what a lot of these people who seek me out are dealing with.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, a personal story and coming from a practitioner, and you can share it when you have that one-on-one time. Where often, if you're working in a clinic or a hospital, you don't have time, nor do you feel
Yeah.
like you have that, the space isn't right to share our stories, right? But as nurses outside those clinical areas, we often can. I mean, one thing that Jen and I do as nurse coaches is that's one thing we're able to do. We're able to share a little bit more than we ever have, and especially because you have that one-on-one time, you have at that time to dig deep. And you mentioned that as well with your clients. And it's so important. I think until people do that, they don't realize how much success they can have or change their life and their lifestyle. And
Yeah.
anyway, that's another conversation. Let's get back to the gut. Women in midlife, especially like right now, like all in the social media, like everyone's hearing about, reduce your inflammation, leaky gut, or, and so it's confusing. It can be confusing for people,
Mhm.
gut health. What is gut health? And so I guess that where we could start, and my first question would be, what are some of the red flags that people are, should really, pay attention to, that, some health condition could be related to their gut?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so true. It's kind of gotten overcomplicated. And like Jen was saying, it is almost like a buzzword now. It's people are talking gut health, gut health, gut health. What is gut health? Like what do I do to
Yeah.
support my gut? Like
Yeah.
totally understand. Yeah, it is. It's there's a lot to it. But we're overcomplicating it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the truth. It's kind of getting overcomplicated out there because it's
Hmm.
gotten so noisy with it. In my opinion, getting down to the basics, lifestyle changes, those are the things that are going to move the needle the most in health. And that looks like gut, all areas of health because it's all connected. But red flags, yeah. So simple. Poop. That tells us a whole lot. You guys remember
Yeah.
the Bristol stool chart from
Yep.
nursing school. So that is something that I'm showing my clients. We're definitely kind of getting nitty gritty and getting personal with what the consistency of their poop is and then the frequency of their bowel movements. And that is a telltale picture of something going on if it's not, a number 6 or number 7 on that stool chart. So I would encourage your listeners to go just Google Bristol stool charts and it will come right up and you'll see most of the images out there are just like cartoon versions of everything. So
Mhm.
don't worry. But yeah, it's very helpful to identify an area of whether that's constipation or inability to digest. So that's kind of one of the number one things with as far as red flags go. Other things would be like brain fog and any kind of honestly hormonal stuff. If somebody has just kind of a long list of symptoms that they have identified are cyclical or related to their cycle or the absence of their cycle, but they're it feels hormone related. That would be definitely another one of those red flags. Energy, sustained energy throughout the day. That's another one. If you're feeling sluggish halfway through the day, if you can't get through the day without a nap, that kind of thing, that would be another one of those red flags. Like issues with food, and sometimes it can be out of nowhere. You might not have had any issue with a certain food, and now all of a sudden, whenever you eat X, Y, or Z, you are feeling bloated after your meal, or you are experiencing hives, or some sort of digestive discomfort, another red flag. Some other things would be like your typical GI upset kind of things, of course, too. Like that's kind of the no-brainer ones, right? Like, yeah, if you're belching a lot or having lots of cramping or bloating after meals or constipation, diarrhea, that kind of thing. Another big red flag, and a lot of people seek me out for help, hormonal health help, but then skin. So any kind of skin eruption happening, whether that's acne, psoriasis, eczema, if the skin is screaming, hands down, the gut is screaming louder. There's something to uncover, there's something to dig down and get to the root of and figure out what's going on. So there's definitely more that I'm missing. I don't have a list in front of me of my top red flags, but honestly, those are definitely at the top of the list. And probably the more often the reasons why people are seeking me out. They've kind of tried everything, but they're still dealing with those things that I listed going on, and they're like, I need answers. We got to figure this out because it's no way to live, right? That's not vitality. No.
No, exactly. Well, and I do think that like just even with the things that you listed, like so many people don't even realize that that can actually be
True.
related to your gut, right? Like I love if the skin is screaming, the gut is screaming louder because
Yeah.
you
Hmm.
know, people wouldn't put that, most people, I mean, including me, wouldn't put that connection together,
Yeah.
you know, and it's
Yeah.
so much is going on in our gut that you know, we never maybe realize, you know, that's where what 70-75% of our immunity lives. That's where
Right.
our
Right.
serotonin, our feel good you know, neurotransmitters live.
Right.
So, you know, if you're feeling horrible, if you, like you said, you're taking naps or you're moody or these types of things, you know, and people,
Anxiety and depression too. I forgot to
absolutely.
mention those, but those very much connected. And
Yeah,
when people are experiencing overwhelming feelings of sadness or anxious and high stress, anxiety, oh my goodness, but I don't, most of them aren't thinking of their gut, like that it
right,
would be rooted there. They're kind of stuck more in the head
right.
space, but they're that gut brain axis. It's so interesting how it's all connected, like you're saying.
Yeah, I'm envisioning like what your intake form looks like, you know. I remember I did an intake form somewhere and it said, you know, are you angry after you eat certain foods? I'm like, oh my gosh, I never really would have thought about that. But yeah, within a couple hours, if all of a sudden you're like super like ragey and it's like, oh, yeah, probably something you ate in that meal flipped your switch, you know, if it happened like that. So
Mhm.
um yeah, so can you kind of explain to me a little bit? I feel like leaky gut is also another buzzword, right?
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
everywhere. And I know I've explained to people, you know, how, you know, the permeability, blah, blah, blah. I'll let you do the explanation. But I mean, I know it is everywhere. Everybody's like, oh, I have leaky gut, or oh, I have IBS, or oh,
Yeah.
I have this, or oh, I have that. And I don't know that we really understand what it is, why it is. So maybe you can simplify that a
Yeah,
little bit
it
for us.
is so common, and I would say more often than not, when I'm working with clients that have any of those red flags going on, leaky gut is a part of the picture for them. Sometimes it's just dysbiosis, which is like an imbalance in the microbiome, where there's certain pathogens that are overgrown, and that is the contributing factor to the inflammation and thus not being able to absorb nutrients and just things not functioning right. But often it is that leaky gut picture that we find through the stool analysis test. So yeah, so it's inflammation in the gut. So how I like to explain it, and it really simplifies it, is we've got our gut lining, and above the gut lining, there should be a nice, robust layer of mucus that needs to be flourishing and needs to be constantly replenishing and replacing. Someone with leaky gut does not have that mucus layer, or it's not good. It's sparse. It's just not healthy, and there's not a good turnover where it's replenishing. And so when that mucus layer is not there, that makes the gut lining irritated, inflamed, susceptible to this leaky gut thing. And I always use my finger. I do this with all of my clients on our calls, but I use my fingers to show. So we have these things called tight junctions under the lining of our that epithelial layer of our gut lining. We have these things called tight junctions, and they're supposed to be tightly together. Now they do kind of like flow and open and close somewhat, but generally speaking, like as you're digesting food and things, they're supposed to be tightly together. Well, someone with leaky gut, they're stuck open. So that mucus layer is not robust there. It's all inflamed, the lining's all inflamed, and then these tight junctions are stuck open. Now, what that does is makes that person susceptible to pathogens crossing through, food particles crossing through, and all of that, when it crosses through, goes into the bloodstream. And so if you think about it in that way, like, oh, okay, so then there's pathogens that don't belong going in the bloodstream from the gut, and then food particles crossing through and getting into the bloodstream. Well, yeah, that makes sense. Now the body is going to mount up this big immune response to these, basically looking at them as like foreign invaders.
Right.
And so that's really what's going on. And then you can also then picture, okay, well, if the gut lining is atrophied and it's inflamed, and that's where we're supposed to be absorbing our nutrients. That's where the neurotransmitters are being supposed to be being produced, and communication lines between metabolic health and hormone health and brain health, all the different, all because it's all connected. then you can understand, okay, so this person likely is not absorbing the nutrients from the food that they're eating. And then there's just a cascade of things that can result from that. So that is what leaky gut is. And then the big question is, well, how does someone get leaky? Like, how did that happen? What made their gut get leaky? What caused that? And it can be a lot of different things. And most of the time, I don't think it's ever one thing. Um, the standard American diet, that would be a contributing thing. Certain medications would contribute to that. Alcohol is a big one. Um, Antibiotics, that one makes sense, right? Where lots of things are getting depleted and inflammation going on. Chronic stress, that's another one. There are bacteria in the microbiome that produce butyrate. That is their job. They produce butyrate, and butyrate is that mucus. That's what replenishes that mucus layer. So if someone's gut microbiome has been depleted and it's not getting fed the right prebiotics, and they're not, these particular bacteria just aren't surviving and being plentiful, then you don't have that butyrate producing bacteria where so that's part of how it happens too. So that's something that we uncover through that test is, are those bacteria low? That's that's a kind of a telltale sign too of like this, that's why it got all that mucus layer isn't really there helping you anymore. Yeah.
The gut is complex.
It's so complex. Yeah. And I feel like that might have even been a little bit of an oversimplification, but it doesn't need to be. We don't need it
No,
complicated. But yes,
right.
when we're working with people and trying to help them understand what it is going on, and then how did we get here? How can we fix it? And how do we make sure that we don't end up back here again? That's really what it comes down to.
So I just want to go right into, so if someone's diagnosed with leaky gut, what do you do? What's the like what are those foundational, let's just get back to the basics. What are some steps, practical steps where people can start from?
Yeah, so a couple of different things when it comes to, we'll talk leaky gut specific, but then foundations, that's kind of like an all-encompassing, the foundations that I encourage my
Okay.
clients in, but the things that we do to address leaky gut and support the gut to heal. So I talked about butyrate producing bacteria. So while we're walking them through most of my clients are doing anywhere from a 90-day to 120-day treatment plan or protocol based
Mm.
on the findings from that test. And what I have them do is that they take a supplement called sodium butyrate. So we're gonna support the body and replace that butyrate in the meantime until we can get those bacteria growing again and flourishing in the microbiome and reestablished in their gut. And oh my gosh, it's a tremendous help to replace that butyrate and give them that
Mm.
supplement of butyrate kind of in the meantime while we're doing the deeper healing work. So that's a great one. And my clients notice a lot of relief. It's like when your gut is really inflamed, you just have this overall sense of unwellness and struggles with things. So that's a big one. But then as far as like, okay, now we gotta heal that gut lining. So some of the tried and true go-to kind of remedies for things like for leaky gut and healing that, reestablishing the mucus, of course, but then that epithelial layer and kind of rebuilding that gut lining and reducing the inflammation. A few things. So a really high quality omega-3 supplement, good DHA EPA ratio, so important for healing the gut and reducing the inflammation in the gut. And then L-glutamine, if you're familiar with that, it's an amino acid, one of those building blocks of that
Mhm.
epithelial layer. So we'll supplement L-glutamine. I'm always encouraging my clients to try to get some of these things from the food that we eat. Our bodies were designed to really respond the best to food. Our bodies recognize food in that way versus isolated nutrients or isolate. They have their place in their time, and I definitely utilize them for sure. But just that kind of coming alongside and like additionally, hey, let's have you also have drink some bone broth because that has the kind of the full amino acid profile, all those, the collagen and all those good things to help nourish that gut lining. So that's another thing that I encourage along with the L-glutamine. Some clients I utilize colostrum. That's another pretty buzzy supplement out there. You
Mhm.
see a lot of ads and influencers and things talking about colostrum, but it is a really great support to the gut lining, to the immune system of the gut. Really a helpful tool to use. But those are pretty much the main things that we're using to target. And well, another one would be zinc in the form of carnosine. That's another one that does a few things. It can stimulate stomach bile, but also it is a really a great nutrient to support rebuilding the gut lining. So yeah, a targeted treatment plan is really what it's going to take. And
Mhm.
then it's also the removal of the things that would be insulting to the gut as well. So encouraging the removal of alcohol and ultra processed foods. For many of my clients, I'm encouraging them to remove gluten. There's a component of the GI map tells us if they're having an immune response to gluten. And so if they're having a higher immune response, we're encouraging, you know, let's remove that out while we're doing this treatment plan.
Mhm.
And something really kind of interesting and wonderful about healing the gut is that once you've healed the gut, you can reintroduce those foods back in, typically without any issue. Now, everybody's timeline of when that gut's gonna be fully healed and be able to withstand reintroducing the things that were inflammatory to their gut is different for everyone. But for most of my clients, if they've identified a food that just does not agree with them, they're experiencing bloating or reactions of some sort after they eat them. Um, you know, yeah, if you've identified something that isn't agreeing with you, let's take a break from that for sure while we're
Mhm.
asking the gut to do all this restorative, reparative healing during this treatment plan. Let's not also be giving it things that are inflammatory.
Right.
Um, that is something that uh, it's important, but I personally don't encourage like the removal of entire food groups or just the removal of dairy just to remove dairy. Like I don't like to encourage people in that way, unless, like I said, unless they've identified that they've connected the dots between something not being good for them. Because restrictive eating, it really just induces more stress. And I always say stress is the enemy of successfully healing your gut. So if I'm encouraging them and having them do something that is really stressing them out, well, I'm really kind of just not not helping the case, right? So I would be in the camp of not testing for food sensitivities or food intolerances and encouraging people to be really restrictive. Now, with that said, though, like outside of really high inflammatory things, so like I said, ultra processed, junk food. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, let's make sure that we're being super mindful of pulling that out of the diet if that's something that you're regularly consuming. The alcohol piece, that's a bummer for many of my clients who love to enjoy glasses of wine. And it again, it's short term. We're just doing some of these things very short term while we're healing the gut. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, leads me to a couple of questions just because, you said you don't want to put the things back in right after you do this healing process. And it seems like and we can talk about more about kind of what that looks like traditionally, but to me, I'm thinking, all right, well, I'm going to spend all this time healing my gut. I am never going to put the rest of the stuff back in. But I get
Yeah.
that, yes, I mean, a restrictive lifestyle is very, very difficult. And
Yeah.
then you get the all or none mentality. And you're like, well, I had one drink. I'm going to
Yeah.
have 15 drinks or whatever it
Right.
is,
Right.
but then you also said something about, you don't really recommend food sensitivity testing. So I've always kind of gone with the, Melissa Urban says this in her Whole 30. It's, do I want it? Is it worth it? And so I've kind of always gone with that, like, well, usually, yeah, I probably always want it, but is it worth it? How it's going to make me feel?
Right. Right.
So is that kind of how you go about it after they've gone through the healing, or how do you approach post
Yeah.
healing
It is
what to do?
it's a great opportunity to educate people about the food that they put in their
Mhm.
body and how it's not all created equal
Yeah.
and what alternatives would be and really great swaps would be. So for sure, I'm not asking them to be super restrictive as far as like removing gluten if their anti-gliadin IgA isn't elevated or removing dairy because we've associated dairy with being like not great for gut health. Well, but not all dairy is created equal. So
Right.
it's something I'm careful about, but also like when I'm telling them like, okay, we're gonna have you go gluten free during this period of time, but we'll have you slowly reintroduce it. at the end, and you might tolerate it just fine once we heal the gut. Because the truth is the food isn't the problem in most cases. The food's not the problem. It's the condition of the gut that's the problem.
Gotcha.
So when we put all the focus in on the food, we're kind of like distracting from the actual healing that's needing to take place, or the dysfunction that's happening. Because once we heal the gut, the food shouldn't really be the problem. But like I think we all know, standard American diet foods and what has infiltrated our food system is not fit for human consumption, most of it. And I actually spend time talking about that and specifically about wheat and gluten, because it's just been so mass produced and hybridized. And it's a very heavily pesticide sprayed crop. Like there's hardly, if any, nutrient value left by the time it ends up in a processed food item. So what a great opportunity to kind of start coming alongside of someone who maybe hasn't made any big radical changes in their diet, and just to help them kind of see what maybe they didn't see before, which is that these things are not fit for human consumption. So when we talk about reintroducing gluten, for example, at the end, when I'm supporting them in getting into like what we call the maintenance phase, where I just give suggestions of things that they could continue, things that are going to continue to promote, healing after the very targeted treatment. And so then I talked to them, go low and slow when we're reintroducing the gluten back in. Also, let's talk a little bit about swaps, like better options. If you're wanting to enjoy some pasta or some bread, let's talk about sprouted. Let's talk about sourdough, and teaching them about how those things are a lot more gut friendly, easier to digest, aren't going to cause the damage that modern day gluten wheat products are going to damage. If you're consuming a lot of those things, that is going to lead to and contribute to leaky gut again, because of the pesticides. And that it's sad. It's really sad that it's not completely banned, but um so that's kind of the truth behind all of that. Is the food's not the enemy. It's not the problem. It's the condition of the gut. But recognizing the way that food can contribute to damaging the gut, and it's all about like, well, how can we heal the gut but at the same time not cause somebody to have more stress.
It's interesting. I mean, because
Yeah.
we learn about elimination diets, and I see the points, everything that you're saying. That's not going to work for everybody, but some
Yeah.
people are going to love it, right? They're going to
Right.
like that.
Hmm.
I think also too is just bringing the attention to it is, our wellness should be a part-time job, right? Or a quarter of a job,
Sure.
because if we're not well, we're not succeeding in the other whatever. And it does take time, and our guts don't get inflamed and leaky overnight, right?
Right.
And so we're not going to cure it overnight too. So there's such a steep learning curve
Right.
around food, and you mentioned history around food and diet culture, and oh gosh,
Yes. Oh, yes.
lots of stuff that you have to take into consideration when
Mhm.
you're initially assessing people
Right.
and starting where they're at.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to, I mean, we have a lot more to talk about, but what are a few of more of your favorite swaps? I'd love to hear about like really practical things that someone could take after listening to this and be like, I'm going to the grocery store, I'm going to buy that and not that.
Yes, yes, yes. And I love that too. As far as like oil, like cooking oils, so that's an important swap to make. So if you are someone who keeps canola oil, soybean oil, corn oil, any of safflower oil, peanut oil, any of those, and cook with those things, removing those would be a really great place to start, and swapping those out with avocado oil, olive oil, real butter. Ghee is another good one. Tallow, beef tallow, duck fat. A little tip. I make broccoli with duck fat, and then just
Mm.
sprinkle some garlic powder and salt, and like do it just in a like a frying pan, and like wait till it like really cook it for a long
Yeah.
time, to where it gets kind of crispy. Oh my gosh, so good. It's fresh on my mind because we had it last night with our meatballs, but so
Ooh, I'm
good.
making
That's a
that.
good one. The flavor is just insane. It's so good, and it creates this like crunch. And a lot of people with a sick gut struggle with raw vegetables. Um, like practical as far as like some of those swaps to make. Siete is a brand out there that they make potato chips now with avocado oil, and they make tortilla chips with avocado oil. Um, so that's a really great one I like to tell people about. There's a brand called Jovial, and they've got some like brown rice based pastas and things, but they also have like a sourdough cracker, and they've got einkorn flour um, pasta. So einkorn is like one of the only wheats left, or maybe the only wheat left on the planet that has not been hybridized. And it is not grown in the US. Surprise.
Of course.
It's mostly grown in Italy. But anyway, this Jovial brand has made pasta out of this einkorn flour. So much easier to digest. Comfort, like it's so good, and it tastes so good. Gosh, there's so many more options now than there were before. You don't have to be an ingredient household to eat healthy. There's some really great convenience foods out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for all those great ideas. I mean, it really just kind of shows you that, yes, it's not going to be an overnight change, but it doesn't have to be, we don't have to make it that hard, and we can find little things to do. And,
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, Angie and our audience is typically the midlife women, and that's our focus of both of our coaching practices.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier, there's a hormone gut connection. If people are thinking about hearing this and everything that you're saying and thinking, oh, yes, I'm having those issues, or I'm thinking about doing hormones, we need to get our gut in the right place before we do that, so that we can absorb our nutrients, absorb our hormones, have our hormones in the right place, in our gut in the right place, so that they all work together. So tell us a little bit about why the GI mapping, like we've alluded to it multiple times in this, but we really haven't said, what is the GI mapping? Why is it different or better or what have you than other testing that maybe we've heard of? And just kind of what your process is with it.
Yeah, the great questions. And um the gut hormone connection, and before anybody jumps into hormone replacement and things like that, everything you said, I am just totally in agreement with that. Like it makes so much sense and would be so beneficial to start at the gut, get that all sorted out. Let's support the gut to heal, because and maybe the hormone replacement is going to be necessary, but like just kind of having that the terrain of the gut be optimal, it's just all gonna everything's just gonna work better, and maybe the dosage for the hormones would not need to be as high to get the effects and the benefits that they're needing. Really fascinating, that the connection with the guts and even the thyroid, and our metabolic health too with the gut. So the GI map, it is very sensitive. So it's a stool analysis test. It is something that you do in the comfort of your own home. You don't have to go anywhere with a bag of poo. You can do the kit gets sent to your home. I will tell you, you will never look at a cardboard nacho bowl the same after you experience that collection. We can joke about this. But anyway, it's a all the steps, like, steps, and then you FedEx it back to the lab. And then the results show up. But this test is really sensitive test. It is testing down to DNA fragments of pathogens. So it's going to pick up a lot of things and really give us a great picture of what's going on in the gut. Now, with that said, though, like from one bowel movement to the next, there's going to be different things in your stool. But what I like to encourage people with, so even though we're doing one stool sample, um, the kind of treatment plans that I put together that target the things that we found on their plan, in many ways, I would consider kind of a broad spectrum kind of treatment. Meaning, if there were some things overgrown in their gut that didn't show up on their test as being overgrown, well, the things that I'm going to be using to address the things that we did find are going to be effective against the stuff that maybe we didn't find. The things that we do to heal the gut lining and reduce the inflammation in the gut are going to work, whether or not we know about every exact microbe and their levels going on, if that makes sense. And then the other piece of the GI map test, and it's my favorite part of the whole analysis, is the last section that comes out of it is all about digestive function. So it's giving us numbers like about pancreatic output. So our pancreas produces all of our digestive enzymes, all the enzymes that we need to break down carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. So we're getting to see how well the pancreas is doing at its job. There's a steatocrit readout. So, that's how well, like that's a measure of fecal fat. So like how well the digestive tract is doing at breaking down dietary fat. That would kind of give a picture of how the gallbladder is doing or how the body is doing without a gallbladder for somebody who has theirs removed. There's a readout that gives us some information about the liver and how well it's doing at um, metabolizing out extra circulating estrogen, some immune markers for the immune system of the gut. Anyway, just so interesting. And it's that section that really helps me piece it all together and get the full picture of what's going on for my client. Because just seeing overgrowths and undergrowths of different microbes isn't the whole picture. We need to know some of these other things in order that we even know like the best approach to their treatment plan because that's going to vary from person to person. Like some people might need some enzyme support and some don't. So it couldn't be a one size fits all. Also, um, the immune system of someone's gut might be just really, really, really sick. And if I don't know that, and we jump straight into what I call the kill phase, where
Jeez.
we're killing off, like doing kind of the cleanse part of it, I just call it the kill phase, but that's where we're like targeting overgrown pathogens and killing them off. If we jumped straight into that phase on day one, they would feel like absolute trash. They would be miserable. So it's those pieces of information that help me design a protocol that is very fitting for them and is going to help them be able to go through it seamlessly, where they can still carry on their day to day. They're Nobody should ever be having those like running to the bathroom or stuck at home when they're going through a treatment plan. I think things like that have almost become synonymous with cleanses or
Yep.
gut resets, detoxes that you're going to feel worse before you feel better, or you're going to have, headaches or migraines or feel really fatigued or, have explosive diarrhea and lots of cramp. All these, or your skin's going to get really broken out and all of those things. And I this is something I teach my clients too. Like if things are going south in that way where you've got these red flags popping up, communicate that with me because that is your body throwing up red flags left and right saying, I am not up for the task of what you're trying to get me to do right now. And we need to pump the brakes. We need to slow it down. We might need to like pull back on a certain thing. My goal is always to help people get through these treatment plans seamlessly, comfortably, with very, very minimal issues and discomfort, and then communicate with me if they don't. But we utilize things like a binder. If you're familiar with binders, that's something that would like bind to those dead pathogens and toxins and stuff and help escort them out through the digestive tract. So that's kind of one of those, just a fail safe, like just to make sure that we're kind of covering all the bases. We're doing things to support the drainage pathways, and I'm encouraging people with like lymphatic drainage and all the areas where our body detoxes through. Our body detoxes through our skin and through our lymphatic system, of course, through our stool. So it's just important to be aware of all of these facets of the way the body functions and works so that we're doing it comfortably. But yeah, that was a lot to answer your GI map, but that is something that makes this test different is that it's those DNA fragments. So it's a really sensitive test. And then that whole like that all those readouts that it gives us of like the digestive functionality of everything too. And I feel like that's what sets it apart.
I appreciate you going so in depth about what the mapping
Oh
is and
yeah.
what it can teach you and show you. So important. But if, women listening, what, for them today, what would you give to them? Like just some foundational habits to put in place. They could look into GI mapping for sure, but if they're not there yet, like what would you say or what would you give to them today?
Oh my gosh, I love this question. My belief is that like those are the things that are going to move the needle the most in people's gut health, but then because everything's connected to the gut health, basically in every aspect of their life. So those specific foundational things are things like a great morning routine would be like hydrating. And I don't mean just like drinking plain water. What I've learned and what I love to teach other people is just drinking plain water isn't getting into your cells and hydrating you. You could drink a gallon of water a day and still be dehydrated. And a lot of people don't realize that. And it's such a simple thing that you can do to support cellular hydration. And that is something as simple as taking a high quality like sea salt and putting a little pinch in your water, or put the pinch straight in your mouth and then drink your water. Anyway, so hydrating first thing in the morning before that cup of coffee. The other thing is like a protein focused, protein rich breakfast. If you have a sick gut, if you already know, something's amiss in my gut, I would encourage you to eat that breakfast, even if it's a shake, before enjoying that cup of coffee. I think that should be included with the morning routine is just stepping outside in the sunlight, even if you only have a minute to do it. Just get out in some sun. It's a great reset. It helps with hormonal health. Your body produces melatonin to go to sleep in the evening, but it starts with your sun exposure in the morning. Movement, but gentle movement. The like taking a 5-10 minute walk after meals, that aids in good digestion and metabolic health. Some mindfulness around like how can I incorporate connecting to nature just a little bit in my day. That has amazing impact on your overall health, mental health, but the gut microbiome and everything too. Like pick one or two things that you feel are you would enjoy, that look interesting to you, that you can see yourself doing, and then get that really infiltrated into your day to day. And once that becomes just part of your day, then grab another one and stack that on to everything. So it doesn't have to be like you guys were saying, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing, it can look like just bringing on one or two new habits at a time so it's doable and sustainable. And I love that for people, and that's where they're going to see the biggest change, because if you don't do those things and you just take a bunch of supplements, you're only going to get so far with the supplements if you aren't kind of having a real radical heart to heart with yourself to kind of
Mhm.
really check in with where you're at and where maybe you need to prioritize your health and where maybe you've kind of put it on the back burner, like so many women
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate the holistic approach because, just as in anything, and especially, how Angie and I approach things, and it sounds very similar to how you do it. Like we're not just a gut. We're not just a hormone. We're not just a heart. We are a whole body. And if we don't approach it whole body wise, we can't fix anything, right?
Yeah.
So don't just think that you're going to go take this one pill or go do 5 minutes of meditation and now you're going to be
One
better.
gut protocol or
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly, exactly. I really appreciate everything that you have provided our us and our audience so far. Can you please just let everyone know where they can find you? And I think you have a special offer for our audience, if you don't mind
Yes, I sure
telling
do.
them about that.
Yes. So you can find, so I'm going to share my email. It's wellness@bloomwiththeresa.com. Kind of a long one, I'm sorry. Wellness@bloomwiththeresa.com. And then my website, if you want to just kind of learn, I really kind of spell out what the GI map is and kind of my approach to how what we do with those results. That's on my website, and it's just bloomwiththeresa.com. Very, very simple. And then for all of your listeners, I did nurse coach duo as the coupon code, and each word is a capital at the beginning. So nurse
Okay.
coach duo, so NCD need to be capitalized, but that's going to give them $100 off of
Wow.
of my services. So I
That's
was
amazing. We'll put all of that information in the description of the episode. And if you like this episode, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, add some comments in this comment section. And as always, please subscribe so that you can get all the information from our channel and know whenever we have new experts that we're going to provide you with such amazing information, just like we got today. So thank you so much again. Thanks, Teresa.